Statement 13 of chapter 5. So all these Vajra statements, right now, they are all related to this topic of the Vajra body, the winds, the channels with all the branching out of the channels called chakras. The channels in Sanskrit are called nadi. Then the nadis, part of the architecture, you could say, part of the architecture of the nadi, the chakras, which is the branching out of these nadis. And then all these prana, or vayu, sometimes also called vayu, sometimes called prana, winds, wind energy. Not the wind you pass out, That's not the wind we're talking about here. Or burp, not that wind. This is wind and a type of energy, which has the characteristic of moving like winds. That's why they're called winds. And the wind energy. Now, of course, this wind energy is also related to breath. So, of course, there is some connection to like air, wind. But it's a type of energy. So then the wind energies, and then the vital essence, or the drops, the bindus. And those also move. So it's about this topic, which is like a big topic in secret mantra. And that's particularly like in the 6 yogas of Naropa, the manipulating of energy and the drops, moving them, controlling them as they course through the nadis is a central topic. But here Kyobpa is especially addressing, in this section on the secret mantra, he's addressing all these mistaken or imperfect understanding of what are these things, how should we relate to them, how are they compared to other aspects of the Buddha's teachings, in what way are they profound, in what way are they not profound if you don't have other conditions. This is what Kyobpa is addressing in this whole section, these different statements. So in 13 it says, so 12, yesterday we looked at, it says some topics are hidden by Vajradhara. So that's a more general statement, and within the context of these winds, channels and drops, it means that some of these details Vajradhara has hidden, meaning you cannot try to find everything in the tantras, in the texts. Then more specifically, in 513, an aspect of this hidden is addressed here. It says some treatments, as in treatment meaning, I think maybe this choice of word is a little, some treatments, because here it talks about the medical tantras. And so the treatment here, some treatments, is not talking about medical treatment. It's talking about the way that this topic, the ways that the topic of the channels, the wind energies and the vital essences, right? The way they are discussed, the way they are handled, some of them, some of this information, they are more profoundly explained in the medical tantras. What does this mean? I think this statement has very, very important meaning. Many great implication. So first thing is this. there's this view, that, what the Tantras say about the subtle body, about the Vajra body, must be most profound. But then when you look at the medical system, medical Tantras, they're called Tantras, medical Tantras, but they're not exactly like the, spiritual Tantras. Here, medical Tantras just means medical science, more generally, right? The medical science as practiced by the Tibetans, which comes from India, combined with indigenous Tibetan medical knowledge, combined with Chinese medical knowledge, Ayurveda, Chinese. So here, Kyobpa Rinpoche actually says, in fact, in the medical tradition, there are more profound. Here means like more detailed, more exact, more efficient understanding of this energetic body, of this Vajra body, compared to what's found in the spiritual tantras, right? Chakasamvara Tantra, Hevaja Tantra, Kalachakra Tantra. And this is kind of a shocking statement. Like the lamas, must be like, wait, how can you say that? Surely what the Buddha taught in Kalachakra is more profound, more true, more right than what the medical doctors are saying. Kyobpa Rinpoche said, no. Some of these topics are discussed and taught in more detailed, so more profound, in the medical tradition. So that means to us, there are a few implications. So here, in this longer commentary, it tells us that Kyobpa Rinpoche made this statement in response to, to those who say, only in the secret mantra material is this topic of the Vajra body and the functions of the channels, the winds, energies, the vital essences. They are most profoundly taught in secret mantra. Kyobpa Rinpoche says, no. In fact, there is a variant Vajra statement from the one we have here in this bigger commentary, which says, in the medical tradition, in the medical tradition, some of the ways and some of the nature and the function of the channels, wind energies, and vital essences are more profoundly taught in the medical tradition. That means outside of secret mantra. So the implications of this really is that, in fact, sometimes, when people get so carried away by, secret mantra has all this, subtle body things, moving of energy, this, that. Kyobpa Rinpoche says, actually, if you want that kind of information, if you're interested in that sort of a thing, there's much more details in the medical tradition. So why is it then in the secret mantra not so much details? Because at the end of the day, they are not as important. They are super important if you want to be a super doctor helping people with health problems. But if your goal is to attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings, then the Buddha taught certain aspects of this Vajra body, not everything, because there's no need for you to know everything. The Buddha only taught what was essential for the purposes of realizing Buddhahood. So that means, right, this Vajra body business is just a subsidiary. It's a supporting condition. Nothing to get so excited over, and in fact, don't get distracted by. All these. In fact, in a later statement, in one of the supplementary statements, Kyobpa Rinpoche actually says, he says, in fact, the Vinaya, the individual liberation vows, style of practice, has more profound teachings of how to train the channels, the winds, and the drops. You're like, what? I never read that in the Vinaya. And we will see when we get to that statement, So in fact, Kyobpa Rinpoche says, yes, actually, they are taught in a very profound way, already at the first level, so-called first level, the individual liberation vow level. He says, over there, how you guard your body, how you guard your speech, and how you guard your mind. They are all to do with how you purify your channels, how you purify your wind energy, how you purify the bindus. How you tame the body, as in physical actions. And how you purify that. The Vinaya's teachings on mindfulness of body, of physical actions, he says, much more profound. Than these techniques of how to straighten the channel, how to make the channel more flexible, how to exercise the channels. He says the Vinaya teachings on how to guard your speech. Speech is directly related to energy and the movement of energy. He says the Vinaya teachings on how to purify your speech from the 4 non-virtues of speech and all the further details on how to engage in kind speech. He says all of that, very powerfully, effectively purifies the wind energies. The Vinaya teachings on how to guard the mind purifies directly the bindus. He says, if you pay attention to that, absolutely no question and no mistakes. But if you think I'm going to take the shortcut way and practice now manipulating, toning the channels, straightening the channels, forcing the winds to go into the channel, then forcing the bindus to go up and down, and he says, may or may not bring the result you're looking for. And to illustrate that point, he says, look, medical doctors have more information about how those things work. But they don't become Buddhas. In fact, he doesn't mention it here, but we know from historical sources, and we know from being exposed to other spiritual traditions, Hindu Tantra has this kind of moving of energy. In the Taoist tradition, also closely related to Chinese medical, there is all this pathways of energy. They have not produced Buddhas. So now commentary of statement 13. Yeah? The development, existence, and disintegration of this body and the vital points and so forth, and of the channels, energies, and the essential drops, as well as the ways of treating their illnesses, are clearly explained in the Vajrayana. However, as for those that are hidden and not very clear, such as disturbances of the three mental poisons and so on, the occurrence of the four kinds of illnesses and so on, as well as methods for curing them, that is, some treatments and explanations of physical conditions or states, these are taught in a very detailed, comprehensive, and clear manner in the medical sutras and tantras, such as Ashwagosha's 8 branches. Thus, these topics are even more profound there, in these quote-unquote secular sources about the body. Because there are these masters of the past, who were not just, but they were, aside from being great Buddhist teachers and philosophers, some of them were trained in the medical science. So they learned medical science, like Ayurveda. The Ayurveda is technically, not Buddha's teachings, I mean, in the broader sense, you could say Buddha in the sense of it's the awakened mind, and the awakened mind finding ways to relieve suffering of beings, and therefore cause the knowledge of the body. In that sense, you could say, yes, of course, all these helpful information and knowledge comes from the awakened mind. But literally being taught by the Buddha, we say, no, the Buddha did not teach Ayurveda. So the take-home lesson here, this point, is to say that again, don't get carried away by these teachings on the channels, nadi, prana, bindu, because they are merely a method. They are method. They are not wisdom. So these methods lacking wisdom can bring about a totally different set of results. In fact, it is said, there are people with ability to do magical things. We accept that. And I grew up in Asia. I've seen enough of that. They have the power to kind of manipulate things that we would call like miracles or magic. Some of those things, is the result of the bindus, chakras, and nadis being manipulated. And some of these individuals are completely unreliable, morally very questionable, and they will do powerful things. Like what in the West, before Harry Potter, would say witch, in a negative sense, like they have these powers, but as far as them being good people, good heart, it's not necessarily there. They have just cultivated these powers. So they are not, so these powers, they are not a sign of overcoming the afflictive emotions, which is primarily, why we practice Dharma, and truly benefiting beings. Okay, so today we will do our dedication prayer now. Sublime, precious, venerable, and glorious root and lineage gurus, assembly of Idam deities, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas dwelling in the 10 directions, and all assemblies of Viras, Viranis, Yoginis, and Dakinis, please heed me. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana and the inherent root of virtue not result in the 8 worldly dharmas, the 4 causes of samsara and the resultant states of hearers and solitary realizers. And may all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, particularly those enemies who hate us, obstructors who harm those who create obstacles, Maras who mislead and their Mara retinues, have happiness, be separated from suffering, and quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, and precious Bodhi. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may we benefit sentient beings with body, speech, and mind. May the afflictive thoughts of attachment, aversion, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise in my mind stream. May thoughts of name, fame, gain, respect, and so forth in this life not arise for even a moment. With my mind stream moistened by love, compassion, and bodhicitta, may I come under the care of virtuous spiritual friends, and having become as limitless as space, may I achieve the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. By the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. Okay, Tata.